Hi there, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a first little live show from Democracy Theater, Rich Scott. So on Truth Social, um, Trump just tweeted out Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. What a shame and a waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Again, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Now, I thought, this can, of course, change very rapidly, but I thought that we had pulled back all the strategic bombers. I do know that it was reported this morning that 17 of the 14 of the large refueling uh, flights, bombers, whatever the fuck we call them, um, were going towards the Middle East. There was also, and I apologize for not checking up on this. There was also talk about um, a military exercise and NATO exercise for the Air Forces, but I did not confirm that, so I apologize for that. So that's where we're at. That is pretty pretty scary stuff, to not say the least. Uh, it has been quite hard to try to make content here in the last couple of days. It seems kind of ridiculous to sit here and snark at some of the other podcasters for small things when right now it looks like we are about to bomb Tehran. Why? Why are we bombing Tehran? By the way, I mean I don't just show. I don't believe there's any military target in Tehran. I'm pretty sure that they were smart enough to put all that stuff into the mountain, which is what makes this so hard and why Israel has asked for our help, which we should give them. They can buy our bombs, they can do their own bombing. We sell weapons in the world that I wish it to be. I wish it wasn't so, but that's how it is. We sell weapons. That's it. There's nothing we can do about it. That's just the way it is. So yeah, sell them the bombs, right? If you if if here's the thing, right? And that's anybody. There's not a fair-minded person. There's not a person who who's fair in these things that will not tell you that um, that they can understand why it is that um, that Iran wants a nuclear bomb. Russia, America's behavior, at least since the end of the Cold War, Russia's invasion of Ukraine have solidified why we should, or why small nations who want to have a deterrent and want to be free should have nuclear bombs, right? So anybody can understand that. However, the 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 country Iran, unfortunately, also have a stated goal of destroying that other nation for religious reasons, right? So it's not like it is for Russia, a geographical thing. They need to hold certain geographical areas or they can't defend themselves against a horde coming in from the west, right? This is why Putin is invading these countries. I mean, this is why he's taking Ukraine, and this is why he has these demands later on. That's just the way it is. That's what he wants. We can decide then whether or not we should let him have it or not. But he has a good reason for what he's doing. Iran has a good reason for what they're doing, and Israel has a good reason for what they're doing too. And it's all existential for every one of them, which makes this so very hard. Right? Let me see over here. So the geopolitics of this is also not, so nobody else wants to talk about it. They tried on Flagrant the other day, and I want to make a post about it. But they tried on Flagrant with Hank Uger, right? And these are the facts. The people of Palestine are sadly nothing more than a political football for every nation in the region. Every time a nation wants a pound of flesh from America, let's say the Senate is saying, we don't want to sell you these airplanes, we don't want to give you this military tech. They instigate something. These poor people get punished again. And then to stop it, they say, yeah, well, we can stop it, but we got to get this. That's how it's been over and over and over again. Then came the Abraham Accord, and that created the problem that the Palestinian issue wasn't addressed at all. And when all the nation had agreed to it, Iran would be isolated, right? Everybody knows this. At the same time, the United States and the EU and the India and Saudi Arabia had a brick competing infrastructure program, right? At the same time, Russia would like very much to distract and disperse the peacetime production of bombs and missiles and everything else that has to be distributed to different military theaters. That's why this is all impossible. This is why this is a knot that is almost impossible to untangle. It is an existential war for Ukraine. It's an existential war for Putin. It's an existential war for NATO. This is why this makes these things so hard to solve. And in the middle of that is these poor Palestinian people who haven't fucking done a thing and was never asked about any of this. But nobody gives a shit because it's not about them. It was never about them. It was never about their liberation. And we long ago, right? We had, what's his name? Wesley Clark. Remember him? Remember Wesley Clark? I'll go over here. Wesley Clark. Remember him when he came in and he said, hey, listen, this thing is coming, right? We're not just going, it's not just Iraq, right? Let me see if we can see that little clip. General Wesley Clark, the 7 nations. Here, listen to this.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the joint staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second. I said, well, you're too busy. He said, no. He says, we've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq. This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later. And by that time, we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. The truth is about the Middle East is, had there been no oil there, it would be like Africa.
No, that's true. Anyway,
after 9/11,
this is not new. This was always the goal. We were always going there, and that was not new since the end of World War II. Patton and some people around him wanted to continue. This is, of course, this is not about Iran, right? It's not about Iran. It's about Russia. This is about Russia. It's not about Iran. For Israel, it's about Iran. For Israel, it's an existential threat, right? But what everybody forgets now is who buys all the Iranian oil, right? Nobody wants to talk about that. Who buys all the Iranian oil? Well, 90% of the Iranian oil is bought by China. What does Israel go after? Chinese energy. Who does that benefit? Doesn't benefit Israel. Benefits us. Right? It benefits us. Remember that. Benefits us. Israel goes after Iran and bombs their, well, first of all, they start a war with them, which means that all the drones that they produce are probably not going to go to Russia anymore, right? Those drones are no longer going to be sold to Russia. Those drones are going to be used against Israel, which then also alleviates the pressure on the front in the war between Ukraine and Russia. Like, there's so many moving parts, and everybody just wants to stare right at this, what's right in front of you. But there's so much more to it, right? Again, an attack from Israel on Iran alleviates pressure in Ukraine because the drones are no longer going into Ukraine, and the oil fields that they bomb, right? That hurts China because China imports 90% of the energy that Iran produces. The many parts. So all these people that are thinking that it's that thing right in front of you are missing what's going on here. This war was always coming, right? I just played you General Wesley Clark telling you it was coming. I'm telling you that started after World War II. Patton say this is not about, again, it's not about Iran. This is about Russia. Iran is a step to isolate. We've been peeling off Russian allies, nation by nation by nation, by destroying them, right? And Iran is the last step in that direction. So we just have converging interests. Of course, Israel has an interest in a country that, for religious reason, not geopolitical reasons, but for religious reason, wants them destroyed. They have a benefit in that. That's a converging interest, right? When they then attack Iran, and Iran no longer can ship drones to Russia that can no longer be fired into Ukraine, right? That alleviates the front over there, right? Then you go back over to the front in with China, and now they have an energy problem. Well, we're all going to pay for that. These are the moving parts. So many moving parts. And then I also want to address the thing that with the boots on the ground. It doesn't look like that right now. It doesn't look like we are putting boots on the ground right now. Last Iraq war was 250,000 troops. It took 4 months to stage them, and it took a long time. And if you look at a map, unlike where we, when we went into Iraq, there was friendly nations. We could put our troops there, and Iraq didn't have a missile defense system that could hit us from wherever the hell they were at, right? So we were safe. That's not the case now. Iran can hit us anywhere. I mean, right now they have missiles that can hit into Europe, so they can hit American troops anywhere. So where are we going to stage? And it's not 250,000 against Iran. I think it's 1 million, but okay, let's cut it in half and say 500,000 troops. Where are we going to stage them? So all these people that are screaming about we're going to put troops in there, again, don't want any troops. Don't want troops. I don't want our planes flying over or in Iranian airspace. I don't want our troops in Iran. Let's clarify that. I'm just telling you what's going on and why some of these things is hysteria, right? Because that's what they want. They want hysteria because at home, there's a whole different agenda. So anyway, this was my little test live thing. I'm probably going to do a video about this, summarizing these things, because it's sad that so many people are being hysterical about this thing, and we're being distracted. Right, this war was always coming. If you listen to General Wesley Clark, he told us this a long time ago, and so this was always coming. It is not about Iran. We have converging interests with Israel, and all that this is doing is alleviating a front. The end is always and always has been Russia. But I will probably make a video about that. Anyway, this little test seems like it worked. I don't know how to shut this off, but for those who came in and said hi, thank you for watching, and take care of yourself and each other. Hey, where's my mouse? Oh, over here. End.